This episode of Kindred Spirits is brought to you in part by Mundy Development. Whether you're beginning your first real estate purchase or you're a seasoned investor, Mundy Development can assist you with all aspects of the process. Kick off your next investment by visiting mundydev.com. That's MUNDYDEV.com. You are now listening to Kindred Spirits Podcast on the RFK Refugees Podcast Network.
Podcast Network. Ted here. John here to talk a little bit of mostly U.S. Women's National Team, maybe a little watch bit. We have a wonderful interview coming up. We'll tease that in a minute. But first, John, how are you doing, my friend? How was your day?
I'm good. It was not bad. I enjoyed talking to a certain Washington Spirit captain last week about sort of her year so far and what's changed. So I think people are going to enjoy that. That's what I've been looking forward to having this show come out since I recorded it last week. So
nice.
Today's a good day.
Today is a good day. We're gonna have an awesome interview coming up. There was no Spirit game to review. If you weren't aware, first time listening, welcome. Most of you, I think, are the hardcore and knew there was no Spirit game. So we're gonna talk a little. The U.S. women did play. We have a major injury that we could talk a little bit about.
I woke up very early this morning, just like weirdly early, and I picked up my phone, which is what you're not supposed to do when you wake up early, because as soon as you look at the screen, your brain melts and then you're awake. But I did that, and there was a rumor that I thought was a rumor that Sam Kerr was coming back to NWSL, but it was actually that she's going to go to Rangers and play with another person named Sam Kerr. And I got very it was 4 a.m, so I was not at my peak brain performance. But I thought for whatever reason, my brain was like, Sam Kerr's coming back to NWSL. She's going to come to the Spirit. True striker, two up top, her and Ashley Hatch. But that's not happening. So there's no rumors ever. That's the worst part about NWSL, is that there's no paper talk. We can't get excited about players that are going to come here. But doesn't mean that we don't get excited about the fact that they're back in action this weekend, and hopefully back to 3 points, because I think this is a good chance to. By the way, for those of you who do not know, there is going to be a show that comes out on Friday that covers both DC United and the Washington Spirit. The timing is so that I can have an opportunity to go to or listen to the press conferences for both teams, and then sort of get you ready right before the game with everything you need to know. Where will you be able to listen to that? Only on our patreon.com/RFK Refugees. Anybody at the $5 tier or up will get that show Friday morning is when you'll get it, most likely, pending if there's any sort of weird news I got to cover. But if that's something you're interested in, take a look. I'm excited to have that. I'll do that again this week, and we'll have up to the minute stuff for the Spirit as they go down and play the Courage down in North Carolina.
Yep, North Carolina. Let's get into the. Let's talk a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the U.S. Women's National Team game against Ireland. They did win 2-0, but I think
somewhat overshadowed
by the injury to Mallory Pugh. Before we get into that, I do think maybe let's talk a little.
Mallory Swanson.
Sorry,
I'm sure
Mallory
Swanson. They have to be Swanson somewhere.
She has said it. She has said it was fine to call her Mallory Pugh. Oh, don't blow your knee out like she did, please.
I just smashed my desk with a. Oh, oof. Okay, yeah, no, I'm good. Listen, if I saw what happened to her knee, that did not happen to my knee, at least. So that I will move on. By the way, were you watching that live by any chance?
I was not. I had to watch it on the replay.
They showed that injury once and one time only, and as soon as a picture of her knee came across the screen, I was like, I know exactly what that was. That is very bad news, and I think there's definitely a thing. Shock must come in, because after she's on the ground for a while and she's getting wheeled off, she's talking to Vlatko. She's like, "I'll be back. I'm fine. No problem. I'm good." I was like, "Buddy, you're not. you are very not. Your knee is all jacked up."
No, there's some adrenaline. I think there's some adrenaline going there. And I mean, we talk about. Let's get into the injury. I was going to say let's talk about the game first a little bit, then talk the injury. But I think the injury is. I mean, this is incredibly unfortunate. I mean, I would say they're being undetermined about her time frame. I cannot see a pathway from this injury that she makes it back for the World Cup, which is utterly devastating for her, because, she was a very bright talent for this team. for this U.S. women's team. She sort of fell off a little bit, but really, the main storyline heading into 2023 was the fact that Mallory Swanson had really sort of grown as a player. She'd become a more complete player, and she was sort of very much ready. I mean, I think there was a whole featurette on her, not for the last win, I think for the last friendly window. And this was supposed to be a moment. And if you talk about one player, other than maybe Sophia Smith, who's looked like probably the best, it's been Mallory Swanson.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself is incredibly just sad and disappointing, I think, for her. I mean, she basically is going to possibly miss this World Cup roster. It's really, really unfortunate. I feel honestly very terrible for her. I think it's really bad.
You know what? I think this is something interesting. I always like to talk about the weird or unique, I should say, to be value neutral sort of relationship there is between the U.S. national team and NWSL. No one has said the words Chicago Red Stars at all since last weekend. And Chicago has literally nothing else going for it other than Mallory Swanson. And now she is out, likely 4 months plus recovery time, most likely. Also, I would say a patellar tendon is not something you want to rush back, particularly, you're still a young player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Somebody said that it's a struggle. Like when, injuries are always unfair, but when it happens this close to a World Cup and they're so far, they're so infrequent that it just seems like cosmically unfair. And then in my mind, my first thing was like, that does happen a lot. Maybe it should happen every 2 years because I feel like 4 years is a long way to wait. It's
No,
for I know I'm not for most careers that's like a 25% of your career.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Honestly, I mean it is, and look at she's 24 right now, so next World Cup she would be 28. So still definitely a path for her to get an
Certainly.
opportunity at a World Cup.
But she was hot as a pistol.
Yeah,
Like she's never gonna
eh,
have. She won't be this hot again. This is a once in a career like run of form that she happened to be on, and this just happened to happen.
yeah. So, and I think from the short term, and we obviously we hope she certainly gets better and everything like that. We can't forget about the long term for her, but I think for the short term, this presents. I will say this right off the bat. I do not think the U.S. women's national team is going to win the World Cup. I'm coming right off the bat and saying like without Mallory Swanson, they have a massive hole to fill. And against this team, against Ireland, they did not look good. I mean, they haven't looked good. I would say they have not looked dominant against an opponent. It's been a long time since we've watched a game and been like, wow, that was a great Washington Spirit performance. That was purely team. It wasn't individually focused. I think Mallory Swanson had a great She Believes Cup. But I think there's been very few moments when you thought that this team looked comfortable. Like the Canada game was maybe the first big test, and obviously that was overshadowed for a lot of other reasons. They
Yep.
obviously played well against Japan and against Brazil, but it just you get the sense that this is a team that is undergoing a little bit of rebuilding. They're trying to find their identity. Past they've got still a lot of very talented players. Trinity Rodman's still very talented. Sophia Smith's really talented. They've got some leaders now in the clubhouse in Rose Lavelle. And obviously, Alex Morgan probably coming back as well. Julie Ertz is back. I think the Julie Ertz addition, which we talk about, that was pretty controversial. I think was purely
Yeah.
because Blacko's like, I need some leadership in this room. I need some organization, some guidance, and she certainly brings that. So if she is fit and can play, she will make this roster.
I I bring it up on the interview here that we're going to. We haven't said who it's with. Where I'm talking to Aubrey Bledsoe.
Mhm.
I sort of brought this up is that sometimes there's rules and then there are special player rules where Vlatko's asked when does Kat Macario get called in, and he's like she needs to play games for her club team first because she's been injured. And yet, to your point, there's a Julie Earth sized leadership hole in this team, and he's going to bend his rules to make sure that gets fixed. And yet, you understand it because this team is clearly missing something. And lots of fans will say, maybe it's the coaching, maybe it's the lineups that he throws out there, maybe it's a lot of different things, and it's not just leaders. But I think that there is this is going to cause some soul searching as far as what he's going to do, because earlier in the cycle, Ashley Hatch was on fire. She scored every game for about 5 or 6 games in a row. And then it turned into the Mallory Swanson show. And now they've got to figure out, to your point, what does that change? Do you change your formation? Do you
Mm-hmm.
try to do a like for like? Trinity Rodman moves up the pecking order. Maybe becomes a starter.
She'll get some. She'll definitely get. I think it improves her. As you never want injury to improve a player, you want merit, purely merit. But I mean, this does, I think, improve her chances of certainly making the roster. I think she was always going to make the roster, but I think being a larger role in this World Cup than maybe we would have seen. Maybe we would have seen otherwise.
I think, keeping this somewhat spirit focused, I think I would have liked to have seen Andy Sullivan perform a little bit better or stand out a little bit more. She's obviously fighting inertia at this point with this Julie Ertz move. I don't think that the good thing for her is that Ertz is not going to be 90 minutes fit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not going to happen. Now, theoretically, she's in negotiations with multiple NWSL teams and she will be playing before the Cup. But I don't think, we'll see. She's not there yet, and it's not going to be the spirit. There's time.
I think there's an opportunity where she could get. I think there's enough time to get her fit. If she gets a team quickly, I think someone's going to go and sign her. I think that's pretty obvious. I kind of wish it was Spirit, to be honest, because I think we need some help out there. But I think from a salary and cap perspective,
could you imagine for Andy Sullivan's brain explodes when we sign Julie Ertz?
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Never mind. You talked me out of it.
I think.
I'm looking at it purely from a get help to the Spirit numbers, so they are not thin. But you're right. I do not think that actually makes sense.
The one position we could not take, I think, center backs, send them our way.
Yeah,
we'll absolutely take some of those. But I think Andy's played herself onto the roster. I think, unless Flacco wants to be completely insane and put all of his eggs in a basket of a player who's coming back from a long break off. So that was the big thing, right? That was the question. She was the last cut off the roster last time. I think she's made it.
And she's been an integral part. I would say her position is safer than a player like Ashley Sanchez, or maybe even a player like Ashley Hatch. I think Ashley Hatch has played herself in there, but I would say maybe, there's a lot of attacking talent and there's certainly other players that you could see getting in over her. I think Andy Sullivan has firmly played herself onto this roster. Maybe her role is a little bit more in question with Julie Ertz coming back, and how much she'll play and what we'll see. I'll be very curious to see what happens in this game on Tuesday. Does he rest? They've already talked about they're going to rest Lourdes Lavelle, and I think that was
got a knock.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it was precautionary, and it was like, we're not having we don't need this right now.
Well, they've said a knock. It could be lies, but they have at least said that that's the case. I need Ashley Hatch to score in this game.
Yes.
She's had a number of missed opportunities the last few games. I think in Canada she might have scored in Canada, but I think there were other opportunities where she did not convert. She's got to get back into that level of confidence. She's doing it for fun, for the spirit when she's playing. But I'd like to see her do that. And Ashley Sanchez, I think it all comes down to how she's playing for the spirit too. I think this has not been her best. It has not translated the confidence she was playing with the U.S. national team in the summer. It's not there. She's not dominating games the way she was before. So I'd love to see a performance from her, potentially, taking the Rose spot, getting 60 minutes. And I'd like to see Hatch I think Trinity they might protect a little bit, considering now she's one slot higher on the depth chart now. But yeah, just from a U.S. perspective, I want to make sure we covered off on our bases there. Also, Marissa Shiva played 86 minutes against the United States. Congratulations to her, making her, I think, debut for the Irish national team. I wonder if she plays again tonight when this podcast comes out.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow night's the game. We'll see. I mean, maybe save some minutes, save some legs for that. I do. One thing I want to see out of the game on Tuesday is I want to see the team come out with a little bit more energy. There was very much a lack of energy from the U.S. women's team. And it was very much like maybe they were underestimating Ireland a little bit. They're not a team that is certainly, I mean, even the men's side is not a world power in soccer, and the women's side certainly is not, but they're still a very competently organized team. And I think the Spirit kind of underestimated them a little bit and thought they could kind of, win it in a walk. And I think it was a much harder game.
If you or your company would like to advertise on Kindred Spirits, please email producer Brian at rfkrefugees.com. More creative than a Trinity Rodman celebration, but with less profanity than an Amber Brooks gesture. I can promise you some spirited ad copy. Back to the show.
They get a correct but fortunate penalty call to make it 2-0. So Obviously the Emily Fox goal was very nice and very well taken. There wasn't
Local girl.
there wasn't a lot of. I guess what was most disappointing about the game is there was never moments or chances that you were like, that should be a goal. There wasn't the creation of sort of the high quality chances that you want to see out of a team that is very much clearly the better side. And we didn't see that a
Yeah.
lot in this game. And I think that was most disappointing.
I think you've seen that over and over again. I think that this team struggles with a compact defense
Mm-hmm.
that's not really interested in going forward too much, and is just going to maybe try to hit them in the counterattack. Like this is the struggle that a lot of teams face when they are on paper.
Mm-hmm.
They should dominate, but it's just a question of tactics not being able to play out the way they want. Like to your point, I would like to see this be a 3-4 nothing game tomorrow night. Just to give us the. Is this the last game before the World
This
Cup?
is, yep. I don't think there are any other windows established. So this is it.
That's wild.
Yep.
I guess that's for everybody, right? So everybody will be coming on. All right, well, then the club season matters even more and more. I'm wondering if Flacco tells the 26, like tells the coaches for those players, like, hey, maybe reduce minutes in June.
I mean,
maybe chill out.
I don't think they have the pull.
They don't have to say anymore,
Yeah.
but now it'll just be like a, mano y mano, you scratch your back, I'll scratch my back situation. I don't know. The Spirit, I want the Spirit to get all the points. So that's club over country, folks. If you're listening to me and you're new to this or you don't know, that is my always default position. So I would love the Spirit to squeeze all of the juice out of these players before the World Cup happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I very much I want a time. Hopefully, I want to reach a time where we're not playing the same team in separate windows. I know why it happens. It's sad that it's the way it happened. That this is the way it happens. I would love it if we could get a little bit more of a mix up. But I know it's probably, I mean, I think the U.S. soccer could do this. I think they would be able to get less variety in opponents because I think a lot of these teams would be like, well, we're traveling all the way here for this window. And our federation doesn't want to pay to travel elsewhere. So give us this game I don't think there are many teams that are traveling, that are really traveling around like they are in the men's side. Like you see teams from all over come up and there's friendly scheduled, grab the El Salvador men's team, throw them in the stadium. It's not the same deal, which is unfortunate. But I hope one day we get to a point where we actually get we get friendlies that are, even just like invite a couple teams, Mexico comes in or Canada or some other side to come in. So
Mexico played the Red Stars this week.
Yep, and beat the Red Stars.
So, yeah, Red Stars just catching L's all over the place.
Yep.
No matter where they're at. I feel kind of bad for them, but it is what it is. I want to set up our interview here with Aubrey Bledsoe. So this is last week. There's been no game since then, so all information is still good. I hope you enjoy what she has to say about her U.S. aspirations, her leadership role with the team, and sort of what she sees going forward. How I always ask questions about how NWSL needs to grow. I think it's important that the players, I want to hear their perspective rather than just mine. But I think she's got some great things to say, and she validates one of my ideas. So that's A+. We could just call it a day. But that is coming up right now. Welcome back to Kindred Spirits. We have, I believe, our second interview of 2023. And we the distinguishment is when you've been on the show more than once, you become a friend of the show. So Aubrey Kingsbury back for her second appearance. Aubrey, thank you for joining us.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, I'd love to be a friend of the show.
We keep saying we're going to hand out green jackets, but it's not quite in the budget yet. So as we grow, we'll make a backlist of people that have to get jackets.
Yeah, one day.
So yeah, one day, it's the dream. Last time we spoke, I think it was right before the championship game. And you were babying a hand injury, a finger injury.
Oh, you're right. I remember that.
How is it feeling now? Are there any sort of long-term ramifications for that, or?
Funny you ask.
It's your right hand, right?
It is. It's my right pinky, and I actually broke it again. End of February. Yeah. So it was looking a little touch and go with the season coming up, but it healed pretty quickly, and yeah. It obviously did not affect me at all going into our season opener.
Not at all. Goalkeeper hands have probably got to be like basketball player hands at a certain point.
Yeah,
It's hand model is probably not in the cards for a
no,
goalkeeper,
I
I
say I
think.
have about 8 good fingers left, so I don't have too many more to spare.
That's fair. Let's talk about this year. So the off season, there was lots of attention paid to, a lot of things that happened. There was a rebrand. Michelle Kang has an opportunity to really put her money and her sort of behind what she wants to do from a philosophical standpoint. She's able to hire
Hmm.
a new manager, all these things, staffing up, sports psychology, big training staff. For you, what's had the biggest impact on you? So obviously, there's lots of stuff all over the place, but as your day to day, what's been the biggest thing that's benefited your life at the club?
Yeah, I guess time will tell. Like you're saying, we have all these resources available to us now, and we're getting exposed to all these um, educational components, you could say. So we're in the beginning phases, I guess, of working with all these different new personnel from some female health experts that they've brought in on like a consultant basis through Don Scott, new technology that we've been given access to that helps track anything from sleep and training, our heart rate variability, and then also helps to like predict our periods and menstrual cycles. And we are starting to take new supplements, and so there's a bunch of new things that we're starting, and I think it's more of a like long-term effects.
Mm-hmm.
So not sure exactly what will be most beneficial to me.
TBD.
Yeah, exactly. But we have a new goalkeeper coach in this year that I've really enjoyed working with him. So that's been a fun addition, and a new rookie goalkeeper, Eliza. So I would say on a day-to-day basis, it's been a fun crew to work with. Mike Bristol is his name, our goalkeeper coach. He's very detail oriented, and we'll look at a lot of training film, game film, and sit down as a group and learn together. So I would say that's been my biggest plus this year is just the group that we have together and learning a lot, which is exciting as someone who's been or in the game for a while. The his ability to still pick out details and ways that I can improve my game is really exciting to me.
How do you train? I would say, people who watch you, I think people, I think you seem intense on the field. You seem intense during warm-ups. Like you're very focused. So I'm sort of curious how you approach. Are you as intense in training as you are in the games, or is there a different Aubrey depending on, you know, the the part of the week that you're in? Match
Yeah.
day -3 +3, whatever.
um, I'm definitely intense. I like to work hard, love to work hard. I don't I want to get the most out of my career, so I really value like every day I get to train, every rep. But I also love to have fun. I love banter, lighthearted conversation. So it's usually just me kind of chirping and trash talking a bit, or just throwing in little jokes. But yeah, as our rookie's coming more out of her shell, she'll say stuff back. But Nicole Barnhart is pretty quiet, so haven't gotten her into it too much. But no, we like to joke around, have a good time, but we're also really encouraging, the three of us. We love to see each other succeed, and we all have different things that we're working on, like technically. And so if we see someone get it right, like we're there to celebrate that. So any it's not like cutthroat or anything. Like, yes, we're all intense. We're there to work, but at the same
Mhm.
time, we're there to support each other. So we have a lot of fun at training. We get to do a lot of cool stuff. If it's mini balls or rebounders, if we're working on headers, goalkeeper training is the best. So I love it. We
Yeah.
work hard, but it's also a good mix of fun and play.
Right. Something you said jogged another question for me is that I'd said before, I said on the show, I might have said it in our last podcast that it's tough to be your backup because unless you're a national team
Mm.
duty, you're the Iron Woman, right? You and Sam are going to be in the team sheet.
Yeah.
And I wondered too if the dynamic you have right now, which is a rookie goalkeeper and then Barney, who is on the other end of her career potentially, I think you have a situation where there's competition, but maybe not like pointed competition. I don't imagine that Liza is intending to start week one of her NWSL career coming out of college. Do you find that dynamic this year is not, I wouldn't say better or worse, but just does it fit what everyone needs? Does it fit what you need from a goalkeeping room and from rather than having someone that maybe is really, really eyeing your number one shirt at all times and trying to rip it off you maybe?
Yeah. It's kind
I
of
mean, they all want that,
right,
obviously,
right.
but
Of course, that's everyone's goal is to play, right? And if it
mhm,
wasn't, they would be doing,
they would be gone.
well, that and just doing themselves and each other a disservice because we'll each be at our best when we're pushing each other and just raising the bar as a group. It's kind of ironic, like you're saying, we're all a good mix. Barney
Mhm.
is, yeah, 41. I'm 31, and Liza's 21. So the
Wow,
three of us
it's the gamut.
span 20 years, which is pretty unheard of. But yeah, I joke with Liza that she's got it made because she's stepping in as a rookie and um, gets to learn from Barney, who's been a legend and was on the national team for at least a decade, I think. And then me, someone who's aspiring to hopefully make the World Cup squad this summer. And yeah, we're just a good mix. Obviously, Barney's seen everything. Um, and then me just being kind of the younger generation, and then Liza coming up out of college. She's super athletic and eager to learn and has a great attitude. So we each read the game differently. We have different styles and can kind of watch each other and see what we like, see what we don't like, and incorporate it into our own game. But yeah, hopefully I can get back in with the national team and maybe Barney or Liza would have a chance to play this summer. We'll see,
Mhm.
but yeah, I know it's probably no fun to be my backup. Even with
Well, look at
my hand injuries, I'm pushing through it and still playing.
well, if you look at some of the players that played underneath you, like Katie and were there? You were here in 2020,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
Katie
Katie
Lund
Lund, right, and
and
Devin
Devin
Kerr
Kerr found
now.
another job in Houston. So
Yeah,
it's certainly not a career killer. It's certainly there's that even if you don't play under you, that
yeah,
there's opportunities elsewhere. So you look
exactly.
at it that way. It's
Yeah.
positive. There's also been a lot of discussion this offseason about player movement. Lots of big names out. I think I have found as you cover a team, there are two types. Well, there's lots of types of people, but from a podcast perspective, there are the casuals that only know about the big names, or maybe even will come to the first game and be like, "Where's Kelly O'Hara? What happened?"
Yeah, right.
And then you
Everybody's
and
on
then
it.
you have right, and then you have the we call them either MLS or NWSL sickos that know everything that's going
Mm.
on all the time. They are the every week podcast listeners, and they know what's going on. Um, but we've seen a lot of big names out, mostly draft. Two players, I think two, mostly just draftees though. Some senior players, mostly draftees. At the same time, Mark and others have said that this is all a lot of a part of a larger process, multi-year process. I speculated without any sort of real basis in knowledge that in a very salary cap constrained league, the only place this team can invest without restriction is off the field and player quality of life stuff.
Mm.
And if you're looking down the line and understanding that the NWSL is hard capped, it's what it is, and that the only real differentiator you have for an NWSL club, if it's not going to be salary, it's going to be everything else, all the off the field stuff. What's life going to be like for you as a player of the Spirit versus say for anywhere else? Some people, we always talk about MLS like Messi was never going to come to anywhere other than Miami or LA, like that.
Right.
There's that. But other than that, it's about like what's life going to be like for how much of a professional am I going to feel like, and it's going to vary from team to team. So,
Hmm.
uh, do you think there's something to that? is
Yeah,
that is that a reasonable
that's
assumption?
pretty spot on. Yeah, of course, we're limited by salary caps and how much you can pay a player. But just looking across the league, Michelle has identified that we can gain a competitive advantage if we support the players and um, ramp up our medical staff, our performance staff. We're building out what we're calling a player care department. So these are all relatively new things that other teams aren't offering, right? So if it's comparable and you have your pick of where you want to go, the hope is in a couple years, everyone's going to say, hey, I want to play for the Washington Spirit because I will get the most out of my career. Regardless of money, I know that I'll go to Washington, I'll be supported, I'll have all these resources available to me. And ultimately, that's the kind of player that we want to attract, the ones who really want to push and um, just be the best and contribute to some success here in DC. So yeah, you're spot on. That's the vision, and hopefully in the next couple of years we can see that play out.
You want to be like the Google of NWSL, where all the bennies are for the employees. They're like, all right, there's a masseuse that's here. I can get my dry clean sent out for
Yeah,
free. There's
right.
all the snacks you can want, all that good stuff. Um,
Basically.
Yeah. So new defense, new system of play for 2023. Marcus talked about this being an 8 to 10 game period before he feels like the team will be playing the way that he'd like them to all the time. What might the layperson not see about the principles that are new for 2023, either in your position exclusively or maybe in other places? Mark said, like, we're not game planning and going to be a completely different team for every team we play against. We're going to have principles. 95% of us is going to be us every game, and then 5% will adjust to try to get advantage of what other team is giving us. But what do you see? What's changed from that somebody that is not a NWSL sicko might not notice?
um, yeah, like Mark's saying, it's going to take some time for us to show exactly what his vision is and the way we want to play. Obviously, coming out our season opener at Audi, it was a bit chaotic. The pitch was not what we expected, and just being the first game of the season, it's always a little bit of kickball and um, nerves and just getting that out of your system. And then we went out to Louisville on the weekends and faced like 30-mile-per-hour winds, so that was a challenge itself as well. So hopefully, game three, a little bit more of our skill and style. But with all the new players we have and new tactics, new system, you'll start to see we're playing a 4-4-2 with Hatch and Trin up top, which is new for us this year. And I think it's exciting because it gets the two of them running at
Right.
goal. Both of them are incredibly great finishers and dangerous players. So that's one thing that you can look out for. Ashley Sanchez in the 10 is an incredible passer, super creative player with great vision. And I think she's just going to thrive and just feed assists all season long and hopefully get some goals herself. So, yeah, we've got that. The attack, it's a very high energy, high pressing team. We want to win the ball up higher on the field and centrally. So then, again, we can get our dangerous attacking players on the ball in good positions and generate high quality chances. So I would say we're definitely focused on the attacking end of things. And then defensively, just a bit more organized than last year, um, particularly with the way we defend crosses. And we're
Mm-hmm.
working on, it may seem small, but things like clearances, it's some it's a skill that you need practice and repetition with. So we've been getting a lot of that in the preseason, and we have a couple converted defenders. So Dorian and
Mm-hmm.
Tara,
That
particularly.
that was noticed
Yeah,
even by the
surprise!
non-sickos, I
I
think.
know, because it's like
Right.
the Spirit didn't draft any defenders, so who's gonna play defense? So just that will take some time. They're already doing so well. I'm really proud, especially to get a shutout against Seattle that first game. Like that's a tough test for our defense, and they did tremendously. So a good start for us, but yeah, hopefully as we continue to get into the next month or two, we'll be a lot sounder defensively, and then
Mm-hmm.
just more possession and high energy, high attacking team.
I can ask you this now instead of waiting to ask Mark it
Yeah.
on Thursday. Uh, on the goal on the corner.
Uh huh.
Um, is there a zonal marking in the box, or is there just wasn't a lot of attacking of the ball from the center backs or from the defenders, sort of inside the six? It was very compact, but it the ball it seemed to not really move the players as the ball was moving in. Is there either a new defensive scheme for guarding corners? I know it was a problem last year. That was a lot of goals were given up on either set pieces or corners. That happened in 2020.
Yeah.
I think one and maybe 22. What happened there from where you were
Well,
sitting?
first of all, I'll take the blame. It was within my range to come claim. I just misread it, to be honest, with the wind. I thought with it being an outswinger that it would kind of carry on, kind of outside the six.
Away from you.
And it
Yeah.
seemed to just kind of die and almost curl in, which I wasn't expecting as a left-footed outswinger. So yeah, I know it didn't look great because Sammy just got jumped over by Abby Ursig. She came in with some power.
Yeah, she got dunked on
Yeah,
pretty well there. So that
yeah.
was
But yeah, that's not on Sam. That's on me to kind of claim that space. But yeah, we're definitely defending with more of a zone. So the thing is, the zone is only effective if you win your individual battle in the zone. And then anyone
right.
who's running into the zones is going to have a bit more of momentum. So that's something that we'll have to work on, is making sure that players like Abby Ursig aren't coming up for the alley oop, right in
Right.
our box. So, yeah, because it's just tough to win over someone who's got this powerful run up against you. But yeah,
Right. I'm thinking Taylor Korniak
yeah,
too. That would be
right.
another player that you'd have to game plan for.
Yeah,
Well, that
it
makes
was a
sense.
great
That makes
finish, but
you're
you're right. We need to do better. We need to win our battles, and like I said, it's ultimately on me because um, that should be my ball to come win.
that very magnanimous of you, and that makes sense too. That everyone's reaction makes sense within light of that. Your reaction thinking the ball's going to carry away from you, and their reaction and looking somewhat inert as it coming in. That all makes sense
Yeah,
now.
the
I think
win
that
was
zonal
pretty
marking
nuts.
it was whiff crazy. Zonal marking is one of those things that when it works, no one talks about it, but when it doesn't work, it's like, why are we doing this? This is dumb. Like, across the world, it's just the way it
Yeah,
goes.
I mean, the thought is
Anyway,
you protect the spaces that are most dangerous, right? So why kind of waste
mhm.
players kind of running around in areas that we don't care if they win a header, they're not going to score. So we're we're picking to defend the most dangerous spaces, but again, you have to win those individual battles or the zone loses its power.
It makes sense. It's certainly logical. I asked you about your one-on-one skills a few weeks ago, and everyone inside and outside the locker room agrees that this is something that really sets you apart across the league. And do you feel that is this something that is more instinctual and natural talent based than anything else, or do you specifically you work on everything in training? But is there a spell like, all right, I know there seems to be a lot of occasions where something happens and I'm called on to make this one-on-one save, and is that something that you're practicing on specifically in training, or is it just part of the
Um,
regular, no more than anything else?
I've actually got to give a lot of credit to Ashlyn Harris and Lloyd Yaxley. I played behind Ashlyn in Orlando when I was with the Pride in 2016 and 2017. And she was one of the first female goalkeepers to really nail the technique that we call the spread, which is when you see a goalkeeper basically do the splits.
Hmm.
And that was taught to me by her and my goalkeeper coach Lloyd. And it's really difficult to teach, to be honest, but just watching her and learning from her and Lloyd, I learned that there, and that's been something that I've continued to refine. Just the timing and the balance and the decision of when to use it. And I would say I found myself having to use it a lot more than I would like
Yep.
to
Yep.
with the Spirit because of our shaky defending at times.
Hmm.
You call Sam the Iron Woman. Her and I have played together now for I think 5 years. But really, besides that, has been a revolving door of
For sure.
outside backs, of center backs. There's really not been any sort of consistency with the back line across, yeah, the past 5 years. So with that comes a lot of opportunities, like you're saying, to practice. So um, Yeah, it's I've
I
refined
like
it
the way you
over the
frame that.
years.
That's
Yeah,
a
it's
yeah,
growing,
that's
growing
right.
opportunities, right?
That blade gets sharpened by use, so it's
Yes,
very sharp.
yes. No,
That makes
it
sense.
is one of my strengths, and I've told Parsons that when he first got into the team, and he was kind of asking us all like, what do we bring to the table? What are our player strengths? What do we contribute to the team? But he has promised me that there will be less of those this year. So
We'll
that
see.
is
That's
the
what he
hope.
says. We'll see. Let's keep
I
him
would not.
honest.
I want to show off a little less, you know.
He said the same thing. He said to Sam that it wasn't going to be just hoofing it up the field and clearing it. There was
Exactly.
going to be playing the ball. So we'll see. We'll hold him to that. We'll
Yeah,
check back in 12
exactly,
games
right?
and see where we're at. Settle an argument for me. The tale of two halves cliche that soccer always seems to put forward. That and 2-0 being the most dangerous lead,
Mm,
and we got both of those
yeah.
in one game. Did you see Louisville come out and do something different tactically, or was it just the way the game played out and that it just seems there just happened to be a natural break in between the two halves? Because if you look at an expected goal perspective, it looks like the game sort of flipped in the second
Mm.
half.
Yeah, I think they just wanted it a little bit more. Um, they seemed to win a lot of the second balls and a lot of the duels. And I think we just lost a little bit of our bite, you know. Not that we got complacent, but I think we all walked into the locker room thinking like we had done the hard work. We'd
Right? Could have had
right,
three. This game was
right.
a
We
walk.
were up 2-0. We were firmly in control. They really weren't threatening. But that's honestly what this league is. If you're
Yeah.
not 100%, like it can turn so quickly. So I think that's kind of the lesson learned. Haven't done like a tactical review of it yet, just to look specifically at what they did or what we did. But I think obviously we lost Sanchez there. Nicole Douglas did a great job, but in general, our chances, again, the wind, everything was running out of bounds at the end line or going all the way to Katie Lund. I didn't feel like we were very dangerous. So yeah, a mix of both. Maybe tactically they made some adjustments that we didn't match, and then also I don't think we matched their intensity. And so yeah, like that. Like I said, you've got to play 90 plus minutes in this league, or yeah, you really got to learn to grind out the wins.
I love that. I love the joke you made after the rain game, saying that last year's Spirit would have taken a 1-0 lead and lost
Yeah,
3-1
and then we did
after
the
an extra time.
2-2.
Yeah, but so I think
Oh,
that you've locked in on something, right? Like, still, the mental toughness is still a
yeah,
thing
yeah,
that this team is going to work
for
on, and I
sure.
think that from the outside, it seems like you need a run of seeing yourself holding those results out, or maybe coming from behind and like sort of proof in the pudding type of thing. So it's
Hmm.
not a super young. If you look at the 11, it's not a super young team. You've got some veterans in there, so you've got players that have played in this league and know that's the case. Some of them in new positions, but I think that that's going to come with time. But it's good that that's, as a leader in the team, that you've already identified, like, all right, guys, this is certainly we've got to be sharp all the time, no matter who we're playing, no matter what the score is.
Definitely. And that was the
I think
first
that's
goal we've conceded, the first time we've had to kind of battle back. So, like you're saying, it takes that's almost like a mental rep, is all right, when this
mhm.
happens, let's refocus, let's re-energize each other and get back in this and do what we do. So I think we just didn't get back to playing the way that we wanted to play. So it just made things a little more difficult on ourselves.
And that second goal was unstoppable. So
Yeah,
the
that
little,
just happens
although the
sometime.
the the 25 pass buildup was a little bit more frustrating, I think, maybe than the unstoppable goal. But that if you watch the highlight on that, you're like, wow, this is this is not good. They're building a head of steam here going to the box. But
Yeah,
I think it's tough. I know that we get in trouble. People who are watching the team and talking about the team, trying to predict points on the board. Like, look at the schedule and think, all
right.
right, this team is where this team is. So, and it's a folly in NWSL,
Definitely.
particularly. It feels like this year, and even really last year too, that there is such every offseason, either through expansion or something else, all the pieces get thrown up in the air players move so much, styles change, coaches get fired, new coaches come in, that you are to make any prediction before the season starts is complete folly and a waste of everyone's time. So all the journalists should be like, we're just not going to do a preview this year. It's just, who knows? Talk to me in a couple of weeks. We'll revisit at that point. There's just no way to predict. This league is the parity and the change that's constant or make it so hard to know where you're going to stack up until you play the team on the field.
I agree with you 100%. I saw a lot of people predicting us to finish 10th. Yeah, it's nuts. Anyone can beat anyone.
Who knows? It's tough to say.
You may think are a walk in the park, you lose to, and then the Reign, who are going to probably be one of the better teams, we won, So you just never know.
And you beat them twice, and you dominated them last year. You took points from them every time you played them last year. So who knows? Don't bet MLS. Don't bet NWSL. That's my advice to you.
So
I don't follow my own advice all the time. Just don't do it. It's not. You know nothing when you're making those bets. Kim McCauley wrote about your national team situation for ESPN this week. I'm not sure if you saw it. Maybe you did. And it sort of places your league performance up against your contemporaries and says you should be getting more of a shot than you're getting with multiple regimes. I know this is always a tricky subject for players because of everything that's said is public, and I asked that to Ashley Hatch too. I said sort of before she was in this position that she's in now, right? I was like, this is before she won the Golden Boot. I said, what do they want you to do more of? She's like, score. I was like, all right, well, that makes sense. And then she wins the Golden Boot and now finds herself in the team more often than not. Is the coaching staff, are there things that the coaching staff is asking you specifically to improve on, even in years where you won the Golden Glove or the year when you won the championship and the performance that you did? Are there things that they're saying, we want to see more of this? Or are they basically just like, listen, this is just a deep position and it is what it is? What's the dialogue that goes on for you with the coaches?
Yeah. For me, it's kind of like Hatchie, score. As a goalkeeper, they want me to help win points for the team. And obviously last year, that was a very difficult task for me, sitting at the bottom of the table. We just many times gave up leads and would get scored on at the end and either tie or lose. But yeah, I'm trying to get back to just having that confidence in myself that regardless of what's happening in front of me, like being ready to make the save and not kind of, play down to any level that we may be in, which is difficult, right? Like, and same for all the other girls on the national team last year. Like, it's hard to look good when your team is not looking good and when you're not winning.
Sure.
So I'd say that's.
But the challenge, of course, is that they were still. Last year was last year, and I don't think anyone watching the team was like, "Boy, the reason the Spirit are where they're at is the goalkeeping situation." That was not what anyone was saying. Yeah. So I sympathize. I feel like it's a challenge. It was a challenge for Ashley then, where it's stuff that's out of your control, and it's so much about other people. It's about what other people are doing and what other people think about. It's just it's a uniquely challenging thing that people in normal walks of life do not have to deal with. So I really sympathize with sort of, particularly when it's something that matters to you, right? And something you really want to be, you've dedicated enough of your time and life to this, that's the highest level and you want to get to it.
Yeah,
so
for sure. It's still my dream and goal to make the World Cup. And I believe that I've got a good chance of it, and hopefully we'll keep playing well at the beginning of the season, and team success will bring individual success to all of us, and hopefully get a lot of players on that World Cup roster. But yeah, I don't envy Vladko. He's got a tough job of selecting the right team. And we'll see how it goes. Yeah, of course, like I said, I want to be there. But for me, it's just focusing on what I can control. And I know that I'm continuing to improve, and I know that I would have a lot to offer the national team in helping us win a World Cup if I were to be selected. So we'll see as April and May continue here how we do, but just trying to focus on good trainings, good performances in the match, and hopefully the results will take care of themselves, and I might get a look and a chance to be on that roster.
It's definitely a tough job, and I'm talking about Vladko. It's a tough job and it's an easy job, right? You've got the player pool that you would dream to have, but also with all of the congestion in the different spots, you have to make these rules that you proclaim that sometimes you have to not do them and do. Like it's not like a situation where there is a law of the land and I will only select this and this. Well, you're seeing that from this latest window. Like the challenge is like as you're selecting players and some get called in and some don't, that's the tough part. If you're the
Yeah.
coach of, I don't want to say country, another country, just one that is maybe not number 1 or 2 or 3 in the FIFA World Rankings all the time, you've got players that you've got a couple players that are automatic call-ins, but then other than that, it's like we'll cycle some players out. It's not a big deal, but they could start. I think I said it last year. The U.S. could start an A team and a B team, and both of them would probably be in the top 5 or top 6 of the world
Oh
rankings
yeah.
if
No,
they
I
could play at the
believe it.
same
I would
time.
love to see
That's
that.
just a weird. Yeah, right. That would be great. All right, this is something I always talk about, and I'd love to hear your perspective on it because it matters a lot more than mine. A call up is always good. It gets you closer to where
hmm
you want to be ultimately, but often the NWSL doesn't pause for international
hmm
windows. Thankfully, they are this time. But uh, you have found yourself away from the club team for stretches while also not getting game
hmm
time with the national team. Does the quality of the training and the coaching you get when you're with the national team and sort of the being in the environment to hopefully, that's a good way to get to where you want to be is being around,
hmm
right? But does that make up for you the lack of match fitness you're missing with the team, or anything that's going on, where maybe a hole you find yourself in when you come back to the club team because you've been gone? What's the thinking behind that for you from like a personal perspective, but then also like maybe a
Well,
holistic
that's
way?
a good question. So the camps are generally short within the season. So right now, the national team is away. They've got 2 friendlies against Ireland. So they're gone for about a 10-day stretch. And they'll kind of hit the ground running just because they've got a lot to prepare for in such a little bit of time. But then when you have the longer tournaments, so last summer I was gone for a month at the
Mm-hmm.
CONCACAF qualifiers. Um, and there I was named a 3 pretty early on. And as you get into all those matches, um, Casey and Alyssa were playing and I wasn't. And just as a goalkeeper, being the number 3, it's unique. Your job is mainly to make sure that the others are prepared. So I would say, as we got into the thick of the game schedule, I wasn't getting as many reps, and that's totally normal. It has nothing to do with me, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just kind of the nature of the 3 and making sure that the 1 and the 2 are ready to go. And then, of course, not playing games. I didn't quite realize it until I got back to the Spirit, but I did suffer a little bit just in being sharp in those game decisions, just either doubting
Mm-hmm.
my instincts or just not feeling as mentally sharp. Because to be honest, like the game is quite easy physically, but the challenge is to stay locked in, to continue scanning the field, seeing where the threats are, make sure positioning is right for the whole course of 90 minutes. So that's where I was like, oh wow, I feel a little rusty. And I had a couple of poor performances, I would say, coming back from that. Um, so yeah, being gone for an extended period of time and not getting playing time, uh, something that was a challenge for me to deal with. So it's tough to prevent that because again, only one keeper plays. So
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be 2 others that don't get minutes and aren't staying fresh in that sense than when they get back with their club teams. But um, yeah, that's definitely the biggest challenge for me as a goalkeeper is staying confident when you're not getting playing time. I was still getting good training. Nothing's better than being with the national team. It is
Mm-hmm.
hardcore, like cutthroat, like intense, fast paced. So that's great. But yeah, it's just what counts is then those game moments when you get back with your club team. So hopefully this coming summer, having experienced that once, I can hopefully remain confident and get back with my club and not lose a beat. But that's the particular challenge as a goalkeeper.
Do you wish Do you wish NWSL always paused no matter what the situation was?
That's tough because the summers when you see us have our big crowds, and
Yeah.
I think as a fan, you're saying we have these casual fans and then the sickos. Like the casual fans may
Yep.
lose a little bit of interest. So we want to continue to build up that momentum, and it's also a great opportunity to get other players experience and to increase their profiles. Like we've got so many better players than the ones that are on the national team. So those games give those younger players an opportunity to shine. So I wouldn't say that it should pause all the time when the national team players are gone. But I think what we're doing this year is good, where you've got a little bit of a break. I think maybe for 1 or 2 weekends while they're gone. But it'll be interesting to see the solution going forward, because this will be a recurring problem. We've got the Olympics next year.
Right.
Yeah,
Forever.
so I know there's been talk about changing the schedule. Again, that wouldn't be great with all the markets. Like, I am not going to play in Seattle, Chicago, or New York in November, December, January. No way.
December.
So
Right.
I don't know that there's an easy solution, but it's something that we're starting to talk about amongst the NWSLPA and with the league.
It's one of those situations that isn't unsolvable, because oftentimes the answer is, well, the season should not be as long. And then all the owners will be like, that's a bad idea. We shouldn't do that. We don't like that one. That's a bad one. It's the same thing for baseball. Like the WBC, everyone loved it. They're like, okay, well, we should do it in the middle of the season while everyone's, sort of game fit, and all the pitchers that play normally would want to do it. And then they were like, yeah, they would have to lose about 20 home games each team. And they were like, nope, we're not doing that. We're doing it in spring
Yeah,
training forever. I don't care that it makes it better. That's the challenge, right? It's the sport and the business and all the things that go into it that need to work for
right.
it to exist.
Sure.
I got 2 more questions for you, Aubrey. I appreciate you taking the time. This is another question that got asked in a post game conference, and it's been followed up, I think, by a couple different interviews. But you have gotten a formal field promotion in leadership. You're wearing the captain's armband, and I know that there's a large leadership committee in place and many veteran voices in the locker room. How do you characterize your individual leadership style? And do you think it manifests itself more on the field by being vocal, or in the locker room, or in training, or maybe just in social settings and pulling someone aside and, being a leader that way? How do you put yourself as a leader? Where does it stand out?
I think I'm best in smaller groups, just with a couple players, just getting to know each individual, why they play, what motivates them, and connecting with them, and staff members included. I try to get to know everybody, and not so much even though you might think from the field, I don't love to draw attention to myself or scream and shout other than directions to the defenders. um, but yeah, I'm still kind of working on that as we get into the season, and now I'm stepping into maybe a bit larger of a role. But like you said, we've got a leadership group of 6, so it's not so much asking me to step up and deliver these great pregame speeches or really dig in and do stuff outside of what comes naturally to me. I think, like I said, I'm better with small group settings and just connecting individually and trying to encourage everyone and bring out the best in them. So hopefully through the rest of the group, if we've got someone who's more outspoken, they can step in and rally the troops, so to speak, if needed. Yeah,
They can do the rah-rah stuff. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, I think too it'll be good. There was a quote that came out from, I think, Andre's interview with Andy in the offseason, was asking her if she wanted input into the coaching hire, and she's like, absolutely not. I don't want to do it. I want to just play. Please leave. Basically, the subtext is like, let me just be a professional soccer player, and not maybe also a labor organizer, maybe not also a person like a comms director writing letters on behalf of teams. I think that if you're going to become a formal leader for this team, it's now is the time, versus maybe having to be and you were doing it too, but you were in all those post-game press conferences with Andy too, when it was like, let's ask you really impossible questions that you shouldn't have to answer. Now, hopefully,
it's more fun.
You can never say, but it feels like the waters are a little smoother, right?
It's true. That's a great point. Credit to Andy. She had to really navigate some difficult situations Of course, in the past, me and Tori were there to help, but she had a heavy burden on her from reading statements, asking our owner to step down or things against the coach.
Answering big questions about
Yeah,
sort of racial
yeah,
equality.
oh,
She
for
she got
sure.
asked. She handled them amazingly, and it was the problem. This is always the curse of success: is that you get asked more. Every time they would ask us, like, "Who do you want to talk to after games?"
Oh,
Like Andy,
yeah,
because Andy hits these home runs every time. But she's also probably like, "Can I just
yeah,
go home after the game? Like, can I
yeah.
stop?"
And
I get it.
honestly,
I
that's
understand.
something that we're hoping that Angie will be able to do this year. Is just um, she's the vice captain, but hopefully she'll just breathe a little bit and be able to enjoy playing and just have a great year. I'm really excited to hopefully watch her at the World Cup and see her make her name known on the world stage. So I hope that that can be true for her. But yeah, I think the role of a captain and what professional athletes are asked to do these days is changed dramatically with um, just the rise of social media and information and how much just content people want to digest and look to social
Hmm.
or yeah sorry
As we make some.
yeah just look to athletes to have opinions and be very knowledgeable about all the different issues of the day. So it's a lot to kind of keep up with in terms of knowing what to say to that, and then also just focus on playing, which is really our true love.
The actual job.
Yeah,
It's big other duties as assigned energy for all that, for that leadership stuff. It's like, all right, your job is to be a professional soccer player, but there may be other things that come up, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
there's a lot of things that
yeah,
come up. Um, to to wrap up, I wanted to be clear in asking you this: you are still a young
yeah.
player. You're
Thank
only
you.
31. I'm 37, so you're just
Appreciate
starting.
that.
You have many years ahead of you. But I think I've heard you talking about trying to take advantage of there's business education opportunities, stuff that came up when Michelle joined about getting you guys connected to people sort of in the business community, getting you either education or training opportunities that weren't there before, maybe, or even I think some of
Hmm.
them were there before actually. Have you given thought to what you'd like to do when you're done playing? And I think something you said beforehand might
Yeah,
hint at
I'm
that.
actually almost done with my MBA. I've got I'm in two
Awesome.
classes this semester, and then I'll take one in the fall, and I'll be have my master's. So I'm excited for that, and thank you.
Congrats.
Not sure exactly what would be next, but it's been fun to pursue things outside of soccer. It definitely doesn't take away from the preparation that I put into playing and the video analysis and things like that. But it's nice to have a bit of an outlet and something else to focus on. So um, I don't know. I would love to own a bakery with my sister one day. That's one of my
That's
visions.
cool.
I would love to own an NWSL club or be a GM or um, some sort of role in the front office.
So that part
Oh
appeals
yeah,
to you. That off the field
yeah.
soccer stuff does appeal to
Honestly,
you.
the
Okay.
longer I play, I don't know how I would ever be able to truly step away. It's just so fun.
It's a
Oh
big
yeah,
hole in the resume. It's a challenge. Like I got an MBA. Like when's the last job you had
yeah.
that wasn't soccer? Well, it's been a bit.
It's
It's been
so
a bit.
fun being around a team. I honestly love what I do. I've never enjoyed my job any more than I do this year, and that's a big testament to Michelle and the resources that she is pouring into this club and specifically towards us players. So Michelle is obviously very connected and wants to present us with a lot of opportunities to learn and grow and evolve into whatever else we want to pursue. So I'm just looking forward to meeting new people and trying new things, and we'll see where that takes me.
That's awesome. I know I love whenever I see, anybody on the team that's got like an Instagram ad where they're selling something. I'm like, good, good. They're like, it's like, Trinity is like the queen of this right now. She's, I don't know, her
Oh,
deals
yeah.
team is going
You can't get
bananas
enough of
right now.
Trin.
She's doing great. But I love it. I love it when any of the
Oh,
players sort of get that
yeah.
exposure. So I'm glad that you're, I think it's, to your point, it's great to not have to be one thing all the time, and getting to have that outlet. I think everyone needs that. I bet it would be healthy if every player was able to. I mean, you know how the time commitment
Hmm.
is. You know it's a challenge, but like I think that's a
Yeah,
valuable thing. I'm
for
glad you're doing
sure.
it. It's a good thing to do. Aubrey, thank you so much for taking the time for the
Yeah,
show. We really do
always a
appreciate it.
friend.
Speaking of social media, yeah. Speaking of social media, I always try to, get the kindred spirit effect of maybe 4 or 5
Woohoo!
new followers on your Instagram page. What's your handle on Instagram?
At Aubs Kingsbury, but Instagram, I'm still at Aubrey Bledsoe because I do not know how to change my handle. They will not let me. So yeah, if anyone out there knows someone at Instagram support, would love to change it.
Got. I think it's a lot easier to get Instagram support than Twitter support these
Right?
days. So that's a possibility.
But yeah,
That's a possibility. Aubrey, thank you so much. Enjoy the weekend without a game, and we'll see you back on the
yeah. Thank
field
you, John.
following weekend.
Appreciate it. Nice to talk to you. See ya.
Thanks again to our show sponsor, Mundy Development, available to help you with all of your real estate needs. To get started on your next real estate investment, visit mundydev.com. That's MUNDYDEV.com.